City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com. Welcome to City Spotlight. On this program, we have learned about communities from Marshall to Taylorville, Arthur to Effingham, and places in between, from community leaders across central and east central Illinois. We have been able to feature events and places that have helped shape the towns we have had on City Spotlight. On this episode of City Spotlight, we're going to take an extended look at the Edgar County Courthouse in Parrish. To help us learn about the Edgar County Courthouse, we talked with Edgar County historian Heck Parrish. We learned about the history of the courthouse, which is situated in the downtown of Parrish. And we also got a guided tour through the Edgar County Courthouse with Mr. Parrish as we walked all the way to the top. And the walk up to the top of the Edgar County Courthouse was well worth it, as we had a sunny day to view Parrish and Edgar County from the top of the courthouse. Hope you enjoyed this episode of City Spotlight on the Edgar County Courthouse in Parrish. In all your researches and discoveries that you've done and the many things you've done as a historian, I take it the Edgar County Courthouse, from what I've learned about you, is there are not many things that you love more than this courthouse.
I've been a fan of this courthouse, if you could call it a fan, probably I'm 74 years old, so probably about 70. Because my granddad in the early 40s used to walk me around the square. He had a business up here. When we got done in the evening and I was a tyke, he'd walk me around, and I always was in awe of this wonderful building behind us. And often he would take me in the courthouse to see the judges and the clerks, and I've met a lot of wonderful people, have a lot of friends through the years who've worked in this building, and today have some great friends in here. And I'm in it a lot, do a lot of research from the courthouse. It's a great thing. It's a great building and full of history, and I've studied it in depth for 30 years and love studying it, love the building.
So you've been in it many times personally,
oh,
and
yes.
Being a historian, you've said you've researched it for 30 years, so you know quite a bit. Let's tell the folks at home a little history about it. When did this building go up?
Okay, the building was started in 1891. The citizens of the county wanted a courthouse. Now, here on this site, there had been 2 courthouses before. The first courthouse was across the street at Pierman Pharmacy, okay, where it is now. Then they built a courthouse here. That was called the Old Rookery. And it was called the Old Rookery because as it got older, around 1860, it started falling apart basically. Roof had holes in it, windows were knocked out, holes in the walls, and the people that used the upper floor of that courthouse were mostly pigeons. Not people, but, so they called it the Old Rookery. In 1865, that building was sold for $81, and they demolished it. And then this lot here, the square, the inside of the square, sat vacant for 5 years. The people decided they wanted a courthouse. They passed a referendum to fund it. The job was let to the Hibbert brothers from Ohio, 2 brothers, and they started building this courthouse in 1893. Now that's really brief, because there's a lot more that goes to this story. But it was started to be built in 1891, okay? In 1891, in November of that year, they had the cornerstone laid for this building. The Masonic Lodge, which is right here across the street, laid the cornerstone. Huge ceremony. If you look at the courthouse, where the first steps that go up the first landing, okay, that was all just a platform, okay? Mm-hmm. And that platform was full of people. There's 24,000 people at that celebration. They came from all over by train, horse and buggy, wagon, stagecoach, and the square was full of people. Huge parade, and they all sat on that platform. Well, of course, after the cornerstone was laid, the courthouse, they started building, and it was finished in 1893. There was no dedication to the courthouse when it was finished because the weather got sour. It was in November. Mm-hmm. So this courthouse actually was never dedicated. The cornerstone was dedicated, but that way, but when it was finished, there was no ceremony because of the weather. And then Well, you could ask questions about that afterwards. They moved in. It was a long process. Furniture, they had to outfit all the offices. And from 1893 until now, there she stands. Now, one story I might add about that, the tower, the clock tower, was an afterthought.
Okay.
If you look at the courthouse, just where the tile roof is, the red, from there up, wasn't going to be there. And after about 1.5 years of construction, the citizens thought they wanted a clock tower. And it's described in flowery words in all of the minutes of what they wanted. But at that time, you could see that clock tower for miles around. That's how big. Those clocks are 7 foot tall. And that's how the clock tower came into, it was an afterthought, okay?
So great history for Edgar County Courthouse, 125 years it's been here.
Yes.
Beautiful history, and thank you for telling us some of that. What was, if you could tell us maybe a recent renovation, when was the last major renovation done to the building?
The last major renovation was just a few years ago when they rebuilt the tower.
Okay.
Now, and the building itself right now is going under renovation. Roof leaks, they've got some issues, and they're doing that as funding is available. The building's going to be saved. One story that's interesting, in the 1940s, the tower was so dilapidated that the county board was going to demolish it. They were going to take that tower off. And it actually passed by a vote. There was only 2 negative votes about taking this tower off the courthouse. The citizenry revolted, and they said, no way, you're going to leave the tower on. And they actually put it to a vote. And so the tower was repaired. The statue has been down once,
Okay.
well, twice with this last renovation, but once before that, and she's been worked on 1,000,000 times. Her arms fell off, the scales fell off, and that's all been taken care of as it happened.
Okay, very, very good. We're going to take a tour of the Edgar County Courthouse in just a second. I have one last question for you, Heck. The importance, the significance of this courthouse for downtown Parrish, the residents of Edgar County. What does it mean to all these people?
It's extremely, extremely important that this building is here and remains here. Everything legal is done in that building. Hundreds of attorneys, dozens of attorneys, dozens of citizens are in and out of this building on a yearly basis. The recorder's office, the circuit clerk's office, the judge's chambers, the state's attorney's chambers, everything is done here. Hence, the square is alive basically because of that building. I mean, if you go to all the small towns around, Parrish size down, 10,000 people down, the squares are just, they're falling apart. Everything's moving out to big box stores, malls, and Parrish is like that some, but you can see if you look around the square, there are still quite a few businesses here, and the Chamber of Commerce and the mayor, they are constantly trying to find people to come in, move into these buildings, and they are. Some of it's used furniture. Benjamin's has been here for over 100 years.
Wow.
Pierman's Pharmacy's been here since the 1850s,
Right.
40s.
Right.
The banks have always been here, and in fact, there's a brand new bank built just right, new building. That's what they thought about the square, the people that are really interested in this. And it's crucial because it brings people downtown Parrish. And it keeps the community alive because there's a lot of activities on this square throughout the year. There's a couple of festivals that are right here on the square. The Christmas pageant brought hundreds of people here for the last couple of years. In the dead of winter, I mean, and it's just, it's crucial that this building remain here, and it's just wonderful that it is. And the people that have made it possible for this building to remain here should be congratulated and thanked for making it possible that this building remain here. And there's been movement to move it. There's been movement to move these offices out, but they've opted to renovate, remodel, and keep them here, and God bless them for doing it.
Thank you for your history, Heck, on the Edgar County Courthouse. We can definitely see the passion and the love for it. And now we're going to wrap up this show on Parrish here on City Spotlight. We're going to take a tour of the Edgar County Courthouse now.
As you can see, we're in the Edgar County Courthouse, and we're on the second floor. The first floor is the basement. It's considered the first floor. There's a lot of storage down there, a lot of valuable papers. It's small, it's musty. There's a little dirt issue down there, so we're not going to go down there, but we are going to start here on the second floor. And as you can see, there are murals on the wall. Those murals were consigned in 1891 when the courthouse was built. You'll see one on the third floor that was donated by the Chicago World's Fair in 1892. It's called the Merchants of Venice. The wainscoting, all of the marble, the steps and all the marble on the wainscoting was brought here by rail from St. Louis from the Pickle Marble Company in 1891. The clock, the big regulator clock that you see over here was put in after the courthouse was built, of course. And these floors are original floors. They're marble. The courtroom on this floor is the circuit clerk's office, the county clerk's office, and the sheriff's office. The sheriff is in charge at the courthouse. The county clerk actually is in charge of the operation of the courthouse. And there is one courtroom on the second floor. They have just restored this courtroom, and we'll walk in here. In fact, we can walk in right now, and you'll see that they found the original floors. They took up a bunch of tile, and it actually cleaned up. And what you're seeing is the tile that was put down circa 1893. Of course, this was one of the last things that was done. When we go back outside, you'll see in the middle of this building is an elevator. And that elevator was put in by mandate from the federal, the Disabilities Act years ago. And it's one of the big issues that I have with the courthouse because I think it was done wrong. And one of my objectives is to get that elevator moved outside. Because this rotunda, you can see all the way to the top of the bell tower if you look straight up. The elevator took that visibility, that view away, so you can't do that anymore. Back when I was a kid, actually up until the 50s, they had a huge Christmas tree that sat, huge Christmas tree that sat right in the middle of this rotunda. And it was beautiful, beautiful ornaments. Everybody came in to see it. So we'll go out here, out onto the main floor, in the main area. You can see the murals. Okay, now the floor around this, the elevator is new. Of course, the elevator is new. The marble steps are just the way they were in the 1890s when they built the building, and so is the zinc stamped ceiling. And if you look up above that elevator, you'll see where it's gone through, and they closed off the old rotunda, so you can't, of course, see up there anymore. There's a lighted sconce here that these stained glass windows were all throughout the courthouse, and they were also up into the tower, where that's our eventual goal, is to get up into the tower. But that's a sample of what the windows were like. And you can see a lot of the glass over the doorways, for instance. There's cut glass windows that are quite pretty. Actually, they're beautiful.
Where are we at now, Heck?
Okay, we're on the third floor, and this floor houses the state's attorney's office and the judge's chambers, a courtroom, and the library, as well as the probation office. And the circuit judges are Steve Garst and Matt Sullivan. It's the 5th Judicial District. Judge Garst is the presiding judge. They cover civil and criminal cases. You can see the floor is the same as it is downstairs, but the wainscoting up here is walnut. It's wooden instead of marble. The staircase over here that goes up. Now, from the time you enter the building to the top of the bell tower, you've climbed 159 steps. It's a lot of steps. This staircase here is an African wood that was imported to do the staircase. And if you come a little closer here, if you look up, now we're going to climb this staircase to go on up, and you can see more stained glass. But the top of the elevator, the ceiling up there, is all stained glass, and they painted over it to match the decor. Judge Bristow held court here. He started in Edgar County. He was a Supreme Court judge for the state of Illinois years ago. And this is Judge Cotton. He was a circuit judge from 51 to 71, and they were both good friends of mine. Believe it or not, Cotton was a wonderful guy. He had a sense of humor that was just out of this world. He was a good judge, and he was a good friend of my dad's and mine. This is, of course, the upstairs courtroom. You could call it the main courtroom. And this has all been remodeled. Now, in the 1800s, up until about 1960, and I'd have to verify the date on this, this was all remodeled. And the courtroom actually was reversed. The courtroom sat like this. This was the jury room. That door was the jury room. And then upstairs, which you're going to see in a minute, there were balconies where the spectators could sit. Not only in here, but upstairs. It held 1,600 people. This room and those balconies upstairs. They could get 1,600 people in here for major trials, you know, that people are really interested in. And this room, I mean, it holds history. It's a nice room. So we'll go upstairs. We'll take a tour of the tower. The mural that you're looking at now is what they call the Palace of the Mechanical Arts, and that's the mural that was dedicated from the Chicago World's Fair in the 1800s, early 1800s. They donated that to Edgar County to place in this building. And the other murals downstairs they're all hand painted, they're all oils. They've been restored. The odd thing about it is nobody knows who painted them. There's no names on the back, they're not signed, nobody has a clue. And the consensus is that they were probably done by students in Chicago. They were done in Chicago, but nobody knows who did them, and they're beautiful. Okay, what you're looking at right now are the doors that lead into the balcony, one of the balconies that looked over the original courtroom up until about 1960 when they redid it. And now, of course, it's used for air conditioning, but this was, you can see there's tiers in there where the chairs were. And the courtroom was right below this little wall built across here, okay? You can see it held a lot of people. There was a lot of people that could watch these trials. They were quite interesting, actually. Now, where we're going on up. So we're going to go over here where it says keep out. Okay, now we're going on up into the tower. Actually, we're going into the attic, and then we're going into the tower. Watch your step. This courthouse tower was closed off in the 40s because they had some vandalism. Kids would get up here and play, as I did, and there was probably a liability hazard at the time, so they opted to lock the tower up. So you're getting kind of a privileged tour of this. So what you're about to see, I've taken scores of people up to the top of this over the last, probably a dozen years, and it's not something that you can't do, but you have to have an appointment to do it. I kind of have to clear it with the clerk to get in here. I'm up there a lot. I just every 60 or 70 days or so, I climb up there to make sure the windows are good, just because I like to go up for one thing and look at the sights and the sounds. And I love to feel the wind. When the wind's blowing hard, 40, 50 mile an hour, the tower moves, and it's designed to move. And it's pretty awesome. It's like being on a boat. But this is the attic you're in now, and you can see the brick structure and all of the woodwork. When you first come into the courthouse from outside, to the top of the bell tower is 159 steps. The tower itself is 159 feet tall. That's to the top of the statue. It's the tallest edifice in the county. And you can see, as you're going to witness in a moment or two, miles and miles and miles. And we'll get up there and we've got a beautiful day to do it because the sun's shining and it's neat. What you're looking at right now is the first 3 layers of the wedding cake. You're not seeing the top yet. You're seeing the floor of the top, where the clock's housed, where the clockworks is housed. And then yet above that, another floor is the bell. And that's where we're going now, very carefully. You've only got 3 more flights of stairs to do.
All right, Nick. Did we make it to the top?
We're almost to the top. You got you got one more flight of stairs to go to get to the bell. This is the Clockworks right here, and I know that window's filthy, but that's a Seth Thomas Model 16. It was driven by two pendulums that weighed 1,500 pounds. That's what rang the chimes on the bell. This graffiti is mostly recent up here, but down on the lower levels, some of that graffiti goes back to the 1800s. Okay, now I'm going to open one or two of these windows for you. And you can, now, from this window you're looking due east. And it'll be hard to describe from here, but on the horizon, a little bit south of east, you'll see a small tower, and that tower is in Indiana. Straight east of here, I'm looking at a tower that is almost impossible for me to describe where it is, but that's Clinton, Indiana, and it's right on the Wabash River. That is about 17 miles due east of here, is how far that is. Now, from this view, you're looking southwest. If Amin zooms in, looking a little bit west of south, you can see a water tower. That is Kansas, Illinois. Now in the wintertime you can actually see it, but with all the foliage now you can't. The big mill that you see in the immediate foreground is the Illinois cereal mill. That building is also 159 feet tall. This building at the top of the statue beats that in height by 6 inches. So this building's actually 6 inches higher than the top of the Illinois cereal mill. That's unless they have added more stuff to the top to get the record on the Edgar County.
Okay, Heck, tell us what we're looking at now.
Okay, you're looking due west right now, and because of the foliage you don't see much. But if you pan north, you will eventually see a grain elevator about where you are now. That would be Brockton, Illinois. Just an instant right of that elevator will be a water tower. Because the foliage might be out of sight, that's Newman, Illinois. And Ramin's going to pan around to the north, and you'll see Chrisman, Illinois. You can see it pretty plainly, especially because the church in the foreground is St. Mary's Roman Catholic Church.
City Spotlight is on YouTube. Past episodes can be viewed on East Central Illinois towns that have been featured on City Spotlight. Just search on YouTube, City Spotlight, with the show number and the name of the town. Listed on your screen are the recent episodes of City Spotlight. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com.